Now to make sure that it's actually going live. It's always my deepest concern is like I click go live and then like I'm always like, but what if I didn't?
Yeah, that would be rough.
I mean, we'd still play the game. It would just be...
It's true. Alright, seem to be going live. Hello and welcome, dear patrons, to the Tables of Tartarus, a chapter of Purgatory Corner. Today, our storyteller is Benny, or AutisDM on TikTok, and today we shall be continuing the tale of Oceans Ablaze. Come on in, take a seat, and let your imagination run free, and as always, a huge shout out to our $3 patron, Pastry Boy Fritter. If you guys are interested in checking out some of our other content or being shout out at the end of our videos, or even potentially helping me design NPCs, or even up to BBGs for some of my books or other TTRPGs that I'll be doing in the future. Feel free to go check out those socials. I believe our Patreon is on that link tree, but if it isn't, you guys can also find it on the website at the top there. Our schedule is probably going to be changing quite heavily as of starting next month. I might be getting a job this week. So if that happens, then the schedule will also probably be changing in that way as well. So stay tuned with it. If you guys want the most up-to-date information, feel free to go check out our Discord, which is, I believe, also on that link tree. And I'll give the most up-to-date information on the announcements tab. All right, Benny, if you'd like to take it away.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. So, last we left off, the party has been tasked with trying to stop an imminent conflict that has to do with a princess named Liliana, who somehow keeps winding up in or about the city of Spadin, and her home city of Trinoa wants her back. So the party has been a little bit sidetracked in their efforts to stop this conflict from happening by this and that, and they've, among other things, they've managed to make some enemies among some of the smaller nations that Trinoa and Spadin are allying themselves to. But you are finally apparently on course, and it's the kind of day where the seas are getting a little bit choppy, and whoever is keeping lookout does see clouds rolling in. Not something you're panicking about, but not the best weather either. Before we get into all that, though, I'd like to go ahead and do our introductions. Now, we always start with asking a question about the character, and there's a common misconception that ancient and medieval people never took care of themselves, whereas in reality, everyone practiced an amount of hygiene. So when we'll go around, and when you introduce your character, what I'd like to know is, what does your character smell like? Do they smell like whatever it is they work on? Do they use any kind of perfumes? Is there a particularly odoriferous food that they really like that they might perpetually have a note of about them? And for that, we're going to start with Princess Marina. For that, we're going to start with Locke. If you want to go ahead and tell us your race, classes, and then what does Locke smell like?
Locke is a goblin artificer artillerist, mad bomber alchemist, and Locke generally smells a lot like basically just char and a little bit of grease mixed in.
All right.
There's literally just chemical burns all over the place.
Fair enough. So basically, like a high school science lab.
Basically, yeah.
All right. Ace, same question.
So Ace would almost certainly smell like probably the ocean, because he's out on the deck so often. He's usually pirating the ship, and so the seawater air that splashes against him constantly, the rain that falls down, the general boat smells that you would get from the oils that maybe he coats the ship in every now and again just to make sure that the wood stays as it is. Other maintenance stuff. Mostly it's just the seawater constantly hitting him. And then Ace is a human warlock hexblade and rogue swashbuckler. I think that's it.
All right. So base basically smells like lacquer and salt water, more or less.
Pretty much.
All right. And then Signa, same question.
So Signa is a high elf not fathomless warlock anymore. High elf fighter rogue. And she right now very much smells like death, still not having entirely recovered from her encounter with death at the hands of another party member's explosives, and might never recover.
And just so we're being,
might even say she smells a little bit like that party member at this point.
so when we say smells like death, not necessarily smells like decay, but maybe more like an old people smell, maybe.
Kinda, yeah, or like formaldehyde a little bit.
Okay. All right, and let's try again. Marina Oceanstar, same question.
Marina would simply smell like the ocean water and salt water, really, at this point. Maybe a bit of algae, considering how deep she's had to swim to attempt to save people. She is a Princess Trident, Bard of Lore, and Druid of the Circle Shepherd, I think.
All right.
I only put Shepherd Druid on there, so. Oh, Circle of the Shepherd, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right. Well, with that information, so Ace, you being the captain of the ship are noticing that you are in for some rough weather. How do you think you're going to be handling this, and how do you think you're going to be directing your crew?
Looking at the storm that's rolling in, how bad do you think I would think that the storm would be, just based on what I can see so far? Is that perception check or nature check or?
Go ahead and give us, we'll call that perception or nature, whichever you're good at.
I'll do perception then. That would be a nice little 9.
Okay, on a 9. Yeah, it looks like it's going to rain.
Can Marina help with that? Because she'd also be looking out.
Sure, go ahead and make a roll, Marina.
Huh, that did not do any better. That would be actually a 16.
Same roll, but much higher modifier.
So actually, on that high of a roll, what you're going to realize is that while there is some weather coming in, the water shouldn't be as choppy as it is for the weather that's coming in. So you feel like there might be something more than bad weather happening.
So Signa was in the crow's nest when last we left off, and
she attempted to be in the crow's nest.
Yeah, either way. And she has quite a bit of knowledge about the sea, so could I try and hone in on what's going on a little bit?
Yes, you can go ahead and give us a perception check. If you could also try to speak up a little bit, you are kind of quiet.
All right, that is going to be a 21.
21. All right.
Damn.
Yes, there is a storm coming in. There's probably going to involve some electrical component, as in thunder and lightning. And you get the sense that there's something stirring deep in the water, and what that actually is, you're not quite certain. But the disturbances in the water are more than just from the storm.
All right, I'm going to head to Ace, and I'm going to say, Captain, I believe there's something in the water. I don't know what it is. I also think there's going to be a lot of lightning, so we should Probably keep all of the metal objects away from the deck.
Anything flammable shouldn't be on deck either. Under the wave sounds like an issue. Marina, you can transform into sea creatures, right?
I mean, I did turn into a dolphin at one time, so I can do it.
You want to go down there and check out what's going on, assuming you can as well, Signa?
I mean, yeah, I can fall into the water. That is always an option.
It's okay. I can just do it myself. I'll be back.
Alright.
And she'll jump off the ship and transform.
We.
Okay, so go ahead and make a nature check.
Yeah, that should have been a perception check. Oh well. That's a 5.
Something stirring in the water. There's definitely something stirring in the water.
Yeah.
The water is moving.
On a 5, you do notice there's a group of sharks who aren't really moving around. They're just kind of in a circle together. And you hear them talking to each other saying, "Fish are friends, not food." But you don't find out anything useful.
Okay. So I'll hop back up and get back onto the ship somehow.
You find anything?
No. I mean, there's a couple of odd sharks that are vegetarian, I guess, but I couldn't sense anything.
Alright, well, in that case,
I
probably
can
gonna
give it a
look
shot.
at. Huh?
I can give it a shot, Captain. I
Alright.
do have a bit of experience with things stirring in the depths, evidently.
As long as you don't fall all the way down.
Alright, so I'm going to hop off the edge of the ship into the water and try to figure out what's going on.
All right. Once again, go ahead and give us a nature check.
It's going to be a natural 1.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so can we stop the nature checks? I think it's a sign.
I get a -1 to nature checks though, so it's a 0.
I have a +3.
Oh.
Funny thing is, I have a +7.
How do you have a +7?
It's an intelligence check.
He loves his nature.
Actually, now that I think about it, because I'm proficient, I have a +8.
God.
All right, so a couple of things here. First off, Signa, yeah, you jump into the water, and it's the kind of thing where you're still coping with the new realities of your form since you have joined the ranks of the undead, and dealing with the fact that you don't breathe anymore is a lot more distracting than you would think it would be. And the fact that you don't experience the water as being cold against your skin actually makes it a little bit awkward to try to operate. So, are you going to get back up on the ship after you fail at seeing things?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And Locke, are you doing anything?
I've actually been down in the hold the whole time working on my experiments. I have no idea that everybody's just gone for.
Ace is just kind of like, he watches you come back up, and he's just like, so, anything down there?
I believe the question was directed at Signet.
Nope, there's nothing down there. As far as I can tell, the water is actually completely fine. I didn't even see the vegetarian sharks, probably because those aren't real. So
They were literally kind of chanting that fish are friends, not food. How did you miss them?
At this point, I come up. I'm coming up the stairs out of the hole. What is going on up here?
So
Well,
Locke,
Hmm?
go ahead, Ace.
No.
Go ahead, Ace.
It's just I'm like, well, Marina jumped into the ocean because the sea is apparently having some kind of trouble that we're not sure about, and she saw some vegetarian sharks, so that's kind of neat. And then Signa jumped into the ocean and didn't see the sharks, and the water's calm. I guess there's a small storm up ahead. Well, I mean, it's probably gonna be raining, so we'll probably just keep going on our course unless I don't know what you can see, Mr. Bomber Boy, but I mean, if you want to jump into the ocean, I'm not going to stop you.
Sure. You know what? Let me grab those goggles. Snap them
Yeah,
onto my. Snap my goggles down, and
I'm sure this will end well, but
Would you
if
like
it
a bubble?
doesn't,
I would love a bubble.
I can put a bubble on you. That way you can breathe and hopefully not get,
I would
drawn
not
by the
say that I am a
gods.
fantastic swimmer, so thank you very much.
remember, Locke, if something goes wrong down there, blow up your bomb.
And Marina's gonna cup her hands and blow a little bubble in her hand and then put it on Locke. Well, not a little bubble, but one to fit his head, sort, something like that.
I still believe that's little.
This is awesome right here. And I go for a dive in the water.
Okay, go ahead and give us a nature check with advantage.
I would love to see you get double net ones.
I mean, would you really at this point?
It would be so funny.
That's the kind of camaraderie that makes this game great. What you got?
Well, you got half of your wish. One of them was.
You bitch. You
What
need
was
to
the other
not
one?
talk before people roll.
But I did end up with a 16 in total.
There we
Alright.
go.
So on a 16, what you recognize is that there is a magical disturbance happening in the water, and you know that it's an arcane school disturbance specifically. So it's not divine, it's not abyssal, it's specifically some sort of wizard magic that is causing the water to churn up. And below you, there's something large that is moving, and it's moving fast.
Up towards us?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Oh shit. So yeah, I swim. I swim as fast as I can to the surface and get back up on the ship.
Hey, buddy. You look actually concerned for once.
Yeah. Everybody, something's coming up big. Brace yourselves. And as we do that, I'm gonna pull a bottle I'm gonna pull one of the vials from inside my my coat, and I'm gonna pop the cork on it. It has like a little face of a cat, and I'm gonna use enhance ability on myself to get advantage on a dex check.
Nice.
Okay. So with Locke's warning, is everybody trying to grab onto something, brace yourself, that type of deal?
Yeah, Locke would
yes.
probably not Locke. Ace would probably grab onto the wooden beam right next to the steering wheel.
Okay. What were you saying,
Yeah,
Sigmund?
Lyra would be bracing herself as well.
Marina.
Okay. All right. So what you all see, the water breaches and a tentacle emerges that is as thick as any castle's tower that you have ever seen.
God.
And
What the fuck?
and this thing just wraps around the front of the boat. It doesn't catch any of you physically, and it doesn't seem to particularly squeeze. What it does do is pull. So the front of the boat goes nose first into the ocean, and as you all are bracing for all of the water to come rushing onto you and hit you. That doesn't happen. A pocket of air just follows the deck of the ship into the water.
Swear to God, if they break my boat, I'm gonna kill someone.
So you're heading downward at not quite as sharp as a 45-degree angle, but you're heading diagonally downward. You see schools of fish sort of darting out of the way as this thing is moving towards them. Marina, you in particular are going to notice some of the more curious sea creatures like dolphins and octopi are not necessarily coming into contact with the boat as it passes, but they are just stopping to watch with a confused and curious expression. Some time passes with all of this happening, and it's hard to tell how deep under the water you are, but there are occasional flashes from above as lightning is starting to strike, and you can see outlines of turtles and fish and other things moving, and at one point you actually see a whale swimming overhead. This goes on for a few minutes, and in this situation, what are people doing?
Ace would be probably like kind of calling out at one point or another, and he'll just go, "So, anybody got a read on what the hell this thing is? I'm assuming old stories of the Kraken is what I got, but our patron usually just talks to us, doesn't bring us down to his domains. This is it's a bit new. Signa, your weird god things. Is this part of it?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Signa's definitely going to be trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this thing.
So Signa, your knowledge of the old gods is that if they have been known to drag ships down, but they don't drag them down intact. They take the ship apart and take advantage of the situation of the sinking sailor. So this is whatever this is. It's outside of your wheelhouse.
Okay, this isn't my god, whatever it is.
Well, that's I guess less
Could
concerning.
Marina roll a history to see if she knows it by story or
Marina
her
actually
home?
recognizes this.
Ooh.
Marina recognizes that this is what powerful Tritons will sometimes do when they want to talk to people from the surface, and it's basically
no.
a way to flex before the meeting happens.
Yeah, so Marina's going to kind of panic in a sense and well, more worried. And at one point she'll probably just try to hide and make herself like unseen or look different. It's like this isn't good. There's a pretty good chance you guys are about to meet my home. And yeah, this creature is what my family uses, or well, my people use to drag non-sea creatures to our level. Kind of a threatening matter, of course, but it's to keep people in their place.
All right, Locke. We need to make sure that we don't say that we may have almost kidnapped her. All right, we just placing that on the table. She is with us willingly, and it's her fault if
I was with
things
you guys
get injured.
because of a mission that got ruined because you guys.
I'm glad you believe that. Don't worry. Yeah, that's exactly the reason. Yep. Ain't that right, Locke?
I mean, I remember her being put on the ship because she was part of some sort of mission that nobody wanted to tell anybody about.
Yeah. Then we kept her on the ship. Well, for good
Right.
reasons,
That's
obviously.
kind
Yeah.
of the point.
And like while I'm talking, I'm kind of half paying attention, and I'm reaching a hand up very slowly to the bubble to like kind of poke at it.
Okay,
Locke,
so
don't burst the bubble.
well, there's no particular need of it right now because, as I say, a pocket of air is following the ship. But whether the bubble stays is going to be between Marina and Locke.
No, I think
Oh.
he's talking about the bubble around the ship.
Oh, the bubble around the ship. Okay, so yeah, I misunderstood you. When you reach out, you just touch water that's rapidly rushing past you. It's like putting your hand in a fast-moving stream.
Oh, this is wild. You
So
guys
hopefully
gotta
we'll
check
Be careful.
out.
Well,
It's
hopefully we're all
wicked
clear
cool.
on the idea that totally willing to be here.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah.
Locke, do be careful. You don't want to accidentally leave this bubble stream.
Still need your bombs, my dude. Whee!
All right. So as you're continuing down, you reach a part of the ocean where it gets noticeably dark down here.
Mhm.
But since most of you have some level of dark vision, what you're able to see is that the ocean floor has actually been altered intentionally, and it's been altered by human-like creatures. So there are shelters and things that basically look like houses down here. Where the ship is eventually dragged to is kind of an open field, and the ship is dragged into a larger pocket of air, so it comes to rest on the sea floor, and the tentacle was just coming out of the ocean floor itself. Ahead of you
Jeez.
is kind of an open meeting area where a number of Tritons are assembled. They're all very well dressed. Quite a few of them are armed. And one of them, Marina, you're going to recognize this person. He's actually a relative of yours. Basically, a cousin from a lesser branch of your family, but someone who, despite being relatively low in rank, has done a lot of important stuff, and he's a little older than you and a little more established. So as the ship comes to a rest, he is going to stand up from where he was seated at a kind of a banquet table, and he's going to just smile and say, "Welcome. Thank you for coming to meet with me on such short notice. It's good to see you, Marina. How have you been?"
It's always such a pleasure to meet you, even if the situation was a bit forced.
Well, the problem with you associating with surface dwellers is that they were unlikely to accept an invitation to the bottom of the ocean. I could, I suppose, have just sent a messenger to explain why I wanted to meet and what I wanted to talk about, but, well, I didn't want to. My name is Palladius, and who do I have the pleasure of meeting? And he's looking over the members of the party who aren't Marina.
Well met. I am Ace.
Pleasure to meet you, Ace. And Master Goblin, what's your name?
My name's Locke, and my friend here is my little mechanical friend here. His name is Load.
So Palladius is going to stare at Load for a minute, having apparently never seen anything quite like Load. And the moment will pass and he'll turn his attention to Signa.
Hello. The name's Signa.
So Palladius is going to walk up to Marina and do the thing you do where you're hugging somebody, but it's not a tight hug. It's more of just a arm around the shoulders, pat hug.
Mhm.
Yeah, so friendly, but not necessarily the warmest gesture. And when he does this, he's going to whisper, "Is Signa alive?"
Marina will whisper back and it's like, technically no. There's been a bit of a god issue for them. And now they're alive but also dead in a sense.
Interesting company you've been keeping, cousin. He's going to say
Oh,
as he moves
certainly.
away. He's going to say as he pulls away. And he gestures for you all to have a seat at the table.
Ace will, what's the word? He'll politely take a seat.
Okay. What are the rest of you doing?
I'm famished. I run over and I just start piling food into my plate.
All right.
Signa is going to very awkwardly sit down at the table while being fully aware that her former gods are not necessarily a fan of these people. So.
All right. And is Marina taking a seat as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Impressive
So
display with the tackle.
Well, it's important to let people know who they're dealing with. Wouldn't you agree?
Indeed, a show of power is always good, especially when the force is not critical.
So,
I'm glad you did not hurt my boat.
Rather a nice boat by human standards. I wouldn't particularly want to damage it. So, Marina, you were sent to the surface with a rather specific task, and that was to deliver the princess on the leg of her journey to Sargasia, thereby averting a war that your family and our kingdom would have been drawn into. How's that been going for you, Marina?
Well, actually, the ship crew had some issues, and she managed to escape when the crewmates were taken hostage momentarily. We all ended up in this terrible human prison for a while. Managed to escape, thankfully, but then we went through a bunch of oddities and such, and
Yes, I actually
not the
have
best
heard
situation.
something about this. He's going to reach into a pocket of his robe and he's going to pull out, since there's not really paper underwater, your people tend to write on seashells. And so he's going to pull out a handful of seashells that are like note cards. And he's like, okay, so let's see what you all have accomplished other than the mission you were assigned. You were captured, you escaped, you took possession of a boat, I believe killing several members of the Sargasian military in that process. You put in a den of pirates. You assassinated the leader of a cult and established a new one somehow. You sunk one of the ships of one of the nations that you're trying to stop the war with. It's certainly an impressive resume you've put together.
Well, I in a sense was supportive, but I can't let people die, so I wasn't part of the killing process in a sense.
I see.
Been a very exciting
And
journey
the
so far.
cult people were not good people at all. They were kidnapping people and using them as sacrifices for their gods. So I assisted with putting an end to the cult. This is true. But I did not kill anyone. I simply disguised as a human and was a lookout for the parameters and our target. And she says it in like a nervous tone, trying to make a bit of light of everything we've done.
It's quite impressive her not killing anyone. I killed at least 5 people.
And not to worry, the cult that replaced it is significantly better. I can personally speak to how morally upstanding those individuals are, truly.
I don't
Lyra's
believe that.
slowly sinking into her hands during this time.
I don't
hiding her
believe that
face.
any cult is really better than any other cult, but you do you.
Every religion is a cult.
Throw a
point
mouthful
stands.
of whatever that's in front of me. We're gonna have to find a whole new place to sacrifice. I'll tell you that much.
By the way, the food that's laid out before you is essentially a seafood buffet. And even if seafood isn't your character's thing, it's the kind of thing where there's such a diversity of it and it's so well made that it's hard not to like it. They also seem to have managed to acquire some wine and some fresh drinking water from somewhere, which is a pretty impressive feat given where you are.
Ace will pile some stuff onto his plate and nod to the leader dude and just say, "Very impressive spread you have here. I'm very impressed by the wine as well."
Oh, well, thank you. I don't particularly partake. I don't need to drink since I live in water, but I'm told it's a good vintage.
All right.
So here's the situation. I am vested with the authority by both the kingdom and our family, Marina, to recall you. And I believe your mother has a match prepared, someone she was looking for you to marry. Do you remember a gentleman named Dorpheus? And as he says that name, you're going to remember a Triton who, even underwater, managed to always smell bad and have just a generally unpleasant in every way aura about him, but his family is very wealthy and powerful.
I mean, even in death, I don't think I'd ever forget him.
So this is the point where I decide whether to follow my orders or do a favor for my cousin. Do you want to go back to home, or do you want to continue your adventure? Do you feel like you might be able to pull off stopping this war, or are you and your and he's going to look over the crew and search for a term. He's going to say, or are you and them going to continue to make things worse?
Ouch.
Well, I never intended for things to be made worse. I meant for this to be an adventure to help people and to make things better, to stop the war and everything, but certainly it hasn't gone like I believed it would be. Shouldn't be surprised and I shouldn't have been so naive. But whatever is best for our people and the people above the water in this case. I don't want to continue making things worse. I'd rather get this war done and over with and everyone live in peace. Like they told in the stories in the past. I mean, granted, those stories did have ups and downs. I mean, there was a whole village that got burnt down, but it it still managed to get solved. I don't know, maybe it's just my inexperience with adventuring and everything. And yeah, we've made some bad choices, but we have helped people. Kinda. Not really, I guess.
So he's nodding along as you're talking and sort of taking all of this in. And he's going to look at the rest of you and say, what do the rest of you have to say about the situation? Do you feel like you have anything to contribute at this point to the mission, specifically the mission of stopping this conflict before it gets going?
Oh, quite a.
What was that, Luck?
Oh, no, Signa was talking first.
Oh, Signa, what's that?
Okay. Signa's going to speak up and say, well, my gods have given me a mandate to stop this particular war, which also seems to be in your interests. And considering it is their magic, which is keeping me alive or something akin to it right now, I am not inclined to go against their wishes. So I can guarantee that every remaining cell in my body that continues to live is very much dedicated towards stopping this war.
Fair.
First of all, I think it's a little bit of unfair to Marina over here that you're giving her so much of the blame on this particular situation.
You were the
Go
one that
on.
burned down the church.
Exactly. I'd like to take credit where credit is due. And
Oh, Locke.
I
I appreciate it, but
take full responsibility. I appreciate you trying to stop me. I take full responsibility for the princess getting loose, for your little package getting loose, because quite frankly, I didn't like the idea of transporting mystery merchandise. You see, mystery merchandise it worries me, just like mystery merchandise would worry you, wouldn't it?
Oh, the difference, Master Goblin, is that I'm not a pirate, so I'm not in the business of doing that. The whole purpose of employing your services, your crew services, was your ability to move things discreetly.
Right, discreetly, but I feel like the lack of honesty on your part sort of necessitated these events rolling forward the way they did. I'm more than certain, if you had just told the captain what he needed to transport, would have done it no problem.
Here's the thing, Locke. We did tell the captain. The fact that you didn't know is between the crew.
Trying to
yeah,
remember back.
Marina's hiding her face at this point.
The captain
I
did
just
not
feel
say
like you're
something
being
to you.
very much
so-
unfair, and especially because we're in the process of retrieving the young lady at this point in time, which you have delayed with your spectacular display. I must admit, I've never seen such sea creatures and this spread. Amazing.
I think what my goblin companion means is that he had a overarching interest in the secrets of the ship, one of which I did not share. However, the princess is a focus on us for various reasons, for Cigna's gods and my own personal ones, and so we seek to go and retrieve her, which I assume will ease the conflict to some degree, as that is a very important thing for our lives. Whether or not Marina is with us is of no consequence, but she has been quite useful along with us so far, and losing her specific abilities would be a hurdle to get over, you know?
On that, at least we can agree. My cousin's talent for magic is well known, and that was despite her parents doing their level best to turn her into a wife to be married off for some political alliance.
Yeah.
Then
I
Now,
do
why?
appreciate being spoken highly of, though, but I do my best. I'm definitely not as well skilled in the pirates area, though.
well, I'll just need you to have a little bit more awareness of your situation and your crew. For example, even down here, it is well known that the curiosity of goblins knows no end, and the wisdom of goblins knows no beginning. So you need to share information and or keep an eye on your companions as needed to avoid any more trouble. Wouldn't you all agree?
Slowly look at Locke.
Of course.
I am amenable to this.
Indeed.
Very well. Very well. I will go ahead and send you back on your way. You will be returned to the surface. Marina, I will have a word with your parents, and I'm sure that we can bring some level of peace in the family.
Maybe.
And
But hopefully it doesn't become that I will have to be married off just to ease the troubles.
you would be wasted as a housewife, cousin. And when he says that, there's actually some genuine both respect and affection in his voice.
Very likely true.
So while we're down here, while I have you here, do you have, I don't know that I necessarily have any particular answers that will be helpful in your mission, but do you have any questions about the goings on in the wide world? Anything I might know that would be useful to you?
I'll bring up the double verification that we've gotten about where the princess is, to the best of our knowledge. I'll ask whether or not he has any knowledge of that area, considering he is above the ocean. I'm not entirely assuming he will, but any information is better than none. I'm assuming they're keeping as best track of her as possible.
So Spathen is just a little ways inland. It was after the collapse, it was essentially rebuilt from another older city to be safe from pirate attacks. And as such, our agents don't operate directly there. But the information we have has indicated that she's on her way there or may already be there. And she doesn't seem to have made, whoever has captured her, she doesn't seem to have made any efforts to escape. There's been no reports of any disturbances, any instances that would correlate to or corroborate the idea of someone trying to escape captivity.
Now
that could be because she's terrified. I don't know. What were you saying, sir?
Has there been any information on her leaving that town by chance? Or is it all the information has stopped at that town?
The information we have stops at she's heading that way. And apparently there is a prince there who is quite smitten with her and wants to marry her. Some say that it's mutual, but her hometown, Trinoa, they swear it is not. They swear this is an abduction.
Okay. So we'll probably head inland, see what rumors are true and what aren't. Might kidnap the prince too. So that starts more.
Yeah, I no. Let's not kidnap any more people, please. I'd appreciate
Well, we gotta
that.
kidnap the princess anyways.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
this is true.
Hmm?
Maybe I guess a package deal would be better than one or the other, because if he is truly smitten by her, he'll follow her or try to find her again. So
At this point, Signa is going to speak up and say, I'm under very specific instruction to try and stop a war at all costs, and we are not the geopolitical masterminds at play here. It might be best if we avoided kidnapping more than who we are specifically instructed to kidnap moving forward.
That's fair. That's fair. And we'll kidnap the princess, bring her back, and then establish possibly a connection between the two. Maybe see if they can do that without starting a war. Or kidnap both if we need to. But that depends on whether or not they fight back, you know? Should be fine.
Indeed. Oh, speaking of kidnapping, that reminds me, I have some good news.
Oh, exciting.
Your captain, Gorm, was captured, correct?
Indeed. He was put inside the mines. I wasn't sure if he was alive or not still.
So I don't have a lot of detail, unfortunately, but evidently he had some friends within the Sargassian government, and they were able to facilitate his escape. I don't have his current whereabouts, but we were tracking him as well, and he seems to have managed to escape from captivity and gone inland. I don't know. He probably went inland for the purposes of safety because he knew we'd be unhappy with him, or he suspected as much.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as we know, your captain did make it out of there, which is quite an achievement, I must say. Not many people do.
I'm glad to hear that. Once we rescue the princess, he is going to be our top priority, and then we'll get our old boat back, because I have some dealings to deal with. If you wouldn't mind, if you could keep track of our boat since it's on the waters, that'd be quite helpful to us.
So the last I had heard of your boat, it was docked at Targus, the city of traders.
Mm-hmm.
And out of game, this does corroborate other information you've heard from other people.
Yeah.
And should you find your captain, please do let him know that we don't really blame him for what happened. Given the way this all went, he's not necessarily our top pick to have future dealings with, but there's no hostility between us and him.
We'll be sure to let him know. I'm certain he'll appreciate that information.
All right. Anything from any of the rest of you? He's now looking at basically the rest of the party who haven't asked him any questions.
I'm just like scooping food into the bag of holding.
Thank you for everything again, cousin. I do hope that my parents don't give you too much trouble. And if they do, I can always come back and try to figure things out.
Well, as we all know, you're from the pretty side of the family. I'm from the smart side of the family, so I'll manage them. And he's going to give you a wink at that. And he's going to say, in that case, it's been a pleasure meeting you all. And he's going to lay a really friendly hand on Locke's shoulder and then forcefully move Locke away from the table where he's stealing food. But all in this one friendly motion. And he's going to say, I'm going to let you get back to your adventure. And I believe there's some rough weather up above. So
Indeed.
I'll have you surface outside of the worst of it.
We appreciate that. And Ace will stand up and reach out for a handshake.
So the gesture is a little bit it's the kind of thing where the gesture is unfamiliar to him, but he has heard it, so he does awkwardly take your hand and shake it.
Fair. Ace will start heading back to the ship.
All right. Is anybody doing anything else, or are you all just heading back to the ship now?
Marina's going to kind of go for the same hug they did earlier, and then go.
All right. So he's going to hug you, and it's going to be just a little bit tighter, a little bit more warm of a hug than it was before. And he's going to wish you well.
It should be a safe journey. I'll see you after all of the fun adventure, and I'll tell you about it, or you'll keep track of it.
Little of both. Be well. All right.
Thank you.
So when everybody makes their way back to the ship, the tentacle does the same thing it did before, where it grabs the front of the ship, but instead of pulling it down, it begins to pull it up. So you all are now rapidly ascending back to the surface. Does anybody want to do anything or interact with anything in any particular way as this is happening?
Ace being a little bit more comfortable with the ship going up, he'll probably also like kind of touch the water as it's flowing by, or take note of certain things that are down here as soon as he can see when the sun reaches.
All right. So as you do that, you hear the voice of your patron speak to you,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to say, "Be cautious. I know how charming the Tritons can be, but if you fail them, the penalties will be dire.
I'll keep
Think
that in
about
mind.
think about where you are, and think about the fact that if something does go wrong, you would probably be the most convenient party to blame for the princess not having gotten where she needed to go."
Indeed. I trust them about as far as I can throw them, so...
Well done. And with that, your patron's presence, your patron's sort of mental and psychic presence fades back into the water.
Never gonna get used to that.
Don't throw Marina.
Looks at Marina, cracks his knuckles. Into the ocean.
Anything from Signa or Locke at this point?
Signa's just glad to have gotten out of there alive and is very much just calming down on the ship at this point.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go over to Marina. Man, he was a real piece of fucking work, huh?
Well, only sometimes, but I don't get to see him as often because my parents always just kept me kind of in arm's reach, kind of a watchful eye, but he's a bit of a work, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'm used to it.
I mean, stand-up guy, don't get me wrong, but like, dang, just taking everything out on you, huh?
I mean, I did have a responsibility, and because the princess is missing and wasn't delivered where she's supposed to be, it's going to be a pretty nasty war between families and such. So I kind of deserve it in a sense.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
delivering the princess could cost many lives and homes being lost. If you think about it that way.
Yeah, I guess. You know. But don't worry, we got this. We're gonna go get her, and I promise.
Thank you, Locke. And Marina's gonna hug him.
Aw.
Those words mean more than you realize, okay? You are
Don't worry
quite
about
the
it.
interesting member, but you're my favorite, don't tell the others.
Hey, you want some food? I reach it. I
Of
reach into the
course.
thing and I just pull out whatever was on the table, whatever was on the table, like a big old fucking tentacle or some shit.
And Marina will take it. It's like, thank you so much. I honestly miss my family delicacies.
It's still wiggling, too.
Yo!
Okay. At length, the ship breaches the surface, and you see that the storm that was ahead of you is now behind you. So the water's still a little bit rough, but you're through the worst of it.
Mhm.
The tentacle releases its grip and sinks back into the water. And before anybody asks, you are able to have a look at where it gripped the boat. And you see that while the thing was certainly strong enough to have damaged the boat had the intent been there, it absolutely didn't. It was apparently a very gentle grip.
Impressive little creature.
We need to work on your definition of little.
I'm certain it's not the biggest thing they have down there.
Oh, certainly not. I mean, we can even enlarge that creature.
Oh, that's good. That would be so cool.
Right? It is so fascinating. We can do all sorts of stuff with even just the smallest creatures. Did you know that the pufferfish are actually poisonous? But not many people know that until they realize that they're poisoned once they eat it.
Really?
Yeah,
What if
it's
you cook it?
honestly quite neat.
We're gonna have to go fishing one.
That doesn't always work, actually.
If you throw a fireball at pufferfish, it's not poisonous.
That's because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
There
Yes,
you go.
I mean, it could still exist. I mean, I am an expert at having fireballs thrown at me and continuing to exist. After all,
Listen, I apologized for that, okay?
It was quite a spectacular display of death.
And you know what? As an extra apology, I'm gonna reach into my bag of holding and I'm gonna grab a couple of laughing gas bombs. Seeing as you don't need oxygen, here you go. You can use these when you need them.
yeah, Signal will take those. That's quite handy.
And remember, don't breathe that stuff in. Well,
I physically can't breathe.
don't snort them.
um, yeah, maybe we'll figure that out at some point. So it is still quite fascinating. You can't breathe. You're dead and alive all at the same time. You're experiencing something that no one has ever experienced before, at least to my knowledge.
If I was truly the first not truly alive being for my gods to resurrect, I would not have kept my amazing looks. I guarantee you I am only the most recent in a long line of undead servants to them. I'd very much like to change that as soon as possible.
So you feel like a deep hunger for more blood, or are you like satiated? Like, how's that faring for you?
I mean, snacks work when there's not blood around, so.
Yeah, cool.
So this brings up an interesting point that we haven't really touched on. We'll sort of go around. How do each of you feel about having an undead as part of your crew? We'll start with Ace.
Ace thinks it's useful, mostly because he doesn't really see any negatives until, of course, if Cygna starts trying to eat his teammates. But since she hasn't, he sees it as pretty much just a net positive. They can go in the water easier, they can infiltrate places easier, laughing gas, they're undead, so it's not really that hard to keep track of them. Pretty much just a net positive for him. He's just seeing this in somewhat good lights.
All right. Same question for Locke.
I mean, it's still Cygna as far as Locke's concerned. It's just Cygna with new stuff. I mean, it's more fascinating than anything else.
All right. And finally, Marina.
As Marina has said many times, it's quite intriguing, but she's still also concerned for Cygna's well-being, and she's gonna stay watchful of how they're doing and everything. But she still finds it quite fascinating and definitely will talk about it to people she knows.
That's fair. And Cygna. So is Cygna's desire to return completely to the realm of the living and be as she was, or does Cygna want to retain some of her abilities associated with undeath? What's Cygna's goal here?
Cygna's primary interest is in being confident that she no longer owes her gods a favor. Everything else involving life and death is somewhat secondary.
Okay. So is it a situation where Cygna is just essentially done with the deities she was worshiping?
Not done with them so much as like she's seen what happens to people who don't pay back favors to those beings, and she just doesn't want to end up one of them. She prefers to be a worshipper, not a servant.
Fair enough. All right. Now, in the last day or so before you get to the port town, before you disembark for the next leg of your mission, is there anything in particular any of your characters you want any of your characters to be doing?
I don't think Ace would be doing anything in particular. Mostly he would just be trying to keep track of everything, especially with the not quite concern of the tridents, but definitely they're now much more on his mind, knowing that essentially they're just kind of following what they do, and they apparently have very detailed records of what they've been doing. So clearly people have been watching them. So that's been something that's kind of rattling around Ace's brain. So he's just kind of dealing with that at the moment.
Go ahead and give us a history check.
Will do. Not something he's good at, but that is a 15.
All right. So on a 15, you, being a seasoned sailor in an area where tridents are active, you do have some knowledge of them.
Mhm.
And what you know is that while they do tend to align good, they view their missions, their various errands and missions that they do, as being very underappreciated by surface dwelling creatures. And they often view their tasks as being inherently more important. So there's a kind of arrogance to the way the tridents operate.
Hmm.
And part of that is that they, while they are generally good aligned, they're not necessarily good for everybody if they feel like, how can I put this? Well, basically, if you fail them badly enough, or if they feel like you're counter to whatever greater good it is they're trying to achieve, it can have bad consequences.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I am continuing my my research and refining of my ingredients for my explosives.
All right. So what you find as you're doing this is that there are ways to filter ingredients, and basically what this means mechanically is that if you're using one of your abilities, essentially if you burn a bonus action in addition to the action it would normally take to do an ability, then you can get a greater effect out of it in terms of making it harder for the target to avoid the damage, or doing more damage. We'll discuss it in more detail in the chat between sessions.
Yeah.
But you're definitely making some progress in that regard. Anything from anyone else?
Well, especially from Signa.
Marina's just going to be going between watching the ocean and likely just occasionally visiting Locke and seeing what he's doing. She's just going about the crew, just doing her thing.
Okay. All right. So toward the end of the following day, you make your way into the bay of a fishing village that also serves as an access point to the city of Spathen. And I think Ace, Locke, and Signa in particular know that you're going to need some kind of story for what it is you're doing here and why it is you're going to be tying up your boat for an extended period of time and going into town, because especially in these times of brewing conflict and tension, they're not going to let just anybody, especially not any crew as eclectic as yours, wander into their city. But that is where we're going to leave it for tonight, and so you'll have some time again to discuss in the chat what you want your group's cover story to be.
Sweet, sweet. All right. Well, thank you for DMing for us, Benny. If you guys want to see more of this content, feel free to go over to our YouTube, Tables of Tartarus, and you guys will be able to see not only all of our Oceans Ablaze series, but you guys will also be able to see Adventures into the End Times, which is essentially the prequel series that we did to this campaign. We also have several others, including possibly going to be doing Jump Chain in around 2.5 hours. So come on by if you guys want to check that stuff out. And as I said before, feel free to go check out the links inside of the inside the chat. And you guys can see all the stuff that's going on there. You guys can also just check out any of our social medias and Autist DM on TikTok for Benny. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye.